Welcome to the Golf Improvement Podcast, episode 30.
Welcome to the podcast for golf lovers and enthusiasts who are looking to take their games to new heights. Dedicated to custom club fitting, short game improvement, and effective practice to improve your golf game. This is the Golf Improvement Podcast with your host, Tony Wright.
Hello, this is Tony Wright from Game Improvement Golf in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, with the Golf Improvement Podcast, dedicated to bringing you useful information on custom club fitting, short game improvement, and effective practice techniques to take your game to new heights. Well, I'm excited today that you'll get to hear this interview that I recently did with Dana Upshaw from Dana Golf in Warner Robins, Georgia. I got the pleasure when I retired from my other life to spend 2 or 3 days with Dana to try to pick his brain a little bit on how he does things. And that made a big difference in how I do my custom club fitting. And Dana has done that with quite a lot of people. Dana is at the top of the custom club fitting profession. He is very busy, and it took time to squeeze in some time to get to do this interview with him. But he willingly shares his knowledge with other custom club fitters who want to get to where he is. Or, I don't know that very many will get where he is, but who really want to get good. What I find interesting is that fitters like Dana and Keith Chatham and Bill Weitzel and Dan Wilt, some of the folks I've gotten to talk to on this podcast, the best, know just a little bit more and do things a little bit differently. And I think that's what all of us who are aspiring to get to the kinds of level of knowledge and capabilities that those folks have are trying to obtain from them as we correspond and work with them. So enjoy this interview with Dana Upshaw talking custom club fitting. Hello, this is Tony Wright with the Golf Improvement Podcast, and it's a really great pleasure today to get to talk with Dana Upshaw from Dana Golf, I believe about 20-year professional custom club fitter, and he's won quite a list of awards, but I'll talk about two of them. One of them, since the Golf Digest Top 100 list has been out, he's been on it, and in fact, if you look in Golf Digest, he's quoted a lot there. When they have questions about club fitting, they often talk to him. But the one, when I got to visit Dana, that was kind of the neatest is, I believe it's the 2002 Harvey Penick Award, right, Dana? At least that's in the list.
That's correct, yeah.
And I looked tonight, and it says, here's a definition of somebody who's an award winner of this. A prominent leader whose life emulates that of the first recipient, golf legend Harvey Penick. How does it get any better than that? So, Dana, welcome today, and I know you've had a long day, and your voice is a little gone, and I appreciate you doing this, and I'll bet we'll work it out pretty well.
Well, Tony, you're right on 2 counts. It has been a long day, and my voice is kind of shot. I had a very long fitting this afternoon, which was productive, but I'm glad we finally got the chance to do this.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Well, as I do typically with everybody, I'd like to start, and I know a little bit about your story, but I'm sure the listeners don't. So talk about how you decided to become a professional custom club fitter.
Well, it probably started in my youth, to tell you the truth, as my dad taught me how to be a craftsman. I remember distinctly when I was 8 years old, him taking me out to the garage and showing me how to use hammers and screwdrivers and drills and all those things that made your mind think about things.
Yeah.
After I graduated high school in 1968, I decided to enlist in the Air Force and had a real nice 21-and-a-half-year career where I rose to the top enlisted rank of Chief Master Sergeant in record time and did all kind of things associated with aircraft, and that craftsmanship and working with tools kind of carried over. And eventually I retired from the Air Force in 1990 because I was, quite frankly, sick and tired of messing around with airplanes. And went to work for a couple of defense contractors, and one day I'm sitting at my desk and the guy on the adjacent desk had a Golf Works catalog sitting on his desk, and it was like a 1993 edition. And I said, what's that? He said, well, it's a place you can buy your own golf club heads and shafts and grips, and you can build your own clubs. And I said, really? Can I borrow that? And I still have that.
The magazine. Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And from there, it just kind of took off. I worked off the kitchen counter for a year or so, and then built a nice little shop downstairs, and got a reputation for good craftsmanship and quality work for everything that I was doing, and decided that I'm going to quit the real job and open a golf store. And my wife Janice had that real deer in the headlight look for a couple of months. And since then, it's just been a continual process of learning how to operate the business and learning as much as I can about the club making and club fitting and swing analysis portions of everything that I do, and try to pass along as much as I can to other folks along the way. It's been 20 years now that we've operated out of this location. We have recently made the decision that we are going to close the store at the end of 2016 and go along our merry way and find something else new and adventuresome to do.
That's exciting to be able to get to that point, though, too. Good for you. Well, you said a couple of things as you talked that are really kind of the next question, because, you know, in my communications with you and learning from you, some of the things that really differentiate you are you have an interest in testing and learning about the elements of club fitting. And I think you also blend, you know, all of us really wish we had as much knowledge about the golf swing as you do, and integrating that into your club fitting. Can you talk a little bit about those two elements and how they've been for you?
Well, as far as I know, I was one of the very first club fitters to use video in fitting. Yeah. And it really unlocked a lot of mysteries for me. You know, when a guy is hitting a flop shot 6-iron, when you can't see what he's doing, you just don't understand. Well, he sure looks like he should get more than 140 yards. And back in the day, we had no way to gauge that. I think the most sophisticated thing that was on the market back then was a little device called a distance caddy. It was a little portable radar that would tell you how far the ball is going to fly. And that's just based on the launch angle and the speed of the ball. Yeah. Later versions of that device came out with a power transfer ratio where you could determine your smash factor. And obviously it was picking up the club head. And as the devices got more and more sophisticated and we could delve more into the motions of the club and how those are dictated by the motions of the golfer, and marrying those two up where you can show somebody their swing, how they're making the club move, and how that affects the flight of the ball is what I've been doing for, well, almost 19 years now.
Yeah. And I know, you know, you do a lot of testing, you know, on yourself, right? And you developed, you know, there are probably few people outside the club fitting world that you knew what, you know, the maximum club potential distance evaluation. And you did that with hundreds of golf shots, trying to find out how flex and different things affect how far somebody can hit the ball, right?
I did. When I launched my study in 1997, I believe it was, to develop my performance-based fitting system, I literally analyzed every shot that anybody in here hit off the mat with speed, impact point, smash factor, face angle differentials, carry distances, and I eventually saw a trend in the data where I could say, well, if the club is moving this fast and it's got this much loft, if you launch the ball correctly, you can hit it this far. And that held pretty steady right up until about 6 years ago, until the high core iron heads came out.
Yeah.
I kind of shot that down real quick.
Well, that's probably,
I
it doesn't hurt for golf
now, and
yeah.
I can look at my chart now and look at the distance, and then just add 12 or 14 to it.
That's good news for golfers, I think, though, right? I mean, it just shows how technology is helping things get better, at least as it's used correctly, right?
It certainly is. And the advantage to golfers is I look at golf as kind of a cumulative sport, okay? If you can have somebody well fit with the driver where they're in play and longer, and if you can make their irons hit longer, then they're hitting 2, 3, 4 clubs shorter into their green target. Shorter irons usually get the ball closer to the hole, and shorter putts are easier to make. So under that logic, the longer you can make them, the more accurate you can make them, the easier it is and the more enjoyable it is to play the game.
Yeah. Well, one thing that, this was interesting this year from my standpoint, and I thought about this a little bit. You don't kind of sit on what you do. You had a couple of posts this year where it seemed like you learned some new things every year, and I guess that's an inspiration to a lot of us who are club fitters, that we really shouldn't stop trying to get a little better and try to learn things. Can you talk about it, one or two of the things that you believe you learned this year that you just didn't realize in the past?
Well, I've determined through testing and videoing and launch monitor data that, in my opinion, I'm sure there'll be people disagree with some of these statements, but in my opinion, there is no such thing as a low spin shaft or a high spin shaft. Spin is more relative to how the ball is struck by the golfer than it is what type of shaft you're hitting. The shaft can influence the spin. You have more or less differential between high spin and low spin. But the shaft, in my opinion, doesn't cause low spin, or it doesn't cause high spin. It's basically what we've come to learn as spin loft.
Yeah.
What's the relationship, what's the angular relationship between the loft of the club and the angle of attack? And the more you can reduce that angle, the less spin you're going to have. And then when you come down to impact points on the club face, I'm going to speak specifically to a driver here.
Yeah.
Low impact is going to give you high spin. High impact is going to give you low spin through the process or the phenomena of vertical gear effect. Couple those with swing flaws. It's amazing how much spin some people can produce. And it's amazing how few people can produce very low spin.
And you've demonstrated that to us a lot. And, as I think about you saying that, that's probably been a lot of the result of, I know you have a flight scope. Flight scope's great. Traxman's great. There's a lot of good things out there. But some of that kind of information would have been hard to get had we not had tools like the flight scope and the Traxman, right?
That is correct.
In terms of spin loft.
A lot of it was very speculative. In 1998, 99, 2000, I was competing in Remax long drive competitions as a senior, and I was doing quite well, and everybody was amazed that I was hitting a 10-degree driver, and I could launch the ball on the same line that they could with their 4-degree drivers, but my ball would roll further. And they don't. How do you do that? And at the time, I'd have to say, dumb luck, I guess.
Yeah, I'm going to give away I'm going to give my secret
insight into what was really happening for the collision physics and the launch conditions.
Oh, okay. So you learned that at that time. That's interesting, because there would be no other way to learn it from equipment, just based on looking at what you were doing and having a little bit of up angle and high T and all those things that you talk about right now.
I certainly had a feel for what I was doing, and I thought I knew what I was doing. And then when the technologies advanced where you could get that graphic depiction of what's going on with the launch, that's when I knew that I was on the right track.
That's really interesting. Well, Dana, when I got to visit you, and I know you've talked at other times, one of the things that was fun was listening to a few of your stories from people. Now, the last time I checked, 99 people have had hole-in-ones. Has that changed since a month or two ago, or? We
are up to 100 now.
100. You didn't blow that.
One of my customers, he's actually a retired Marine, and he's a good guy, works for the city here.
Uh-huh.
He came in a couple of months ago and wanted to order a set of Titleist AP1s, and I did all my magic on them, and he came back, I think I delivered them to him on a Wednesday, and he came back in the following Monday and told me with the brand new clubs, the very first time he went out and shot them, he shot 68. This gentleman's 67 years old.
Yeah.
So he was very pleased with that. And a week later, he came in and said, I had an ace.
Wow. My buddy who keeps ribbing me about not getting a hole-in-one, maybe I should come to you. Right. Yeah.
And I had a pleasant phone call this morning. I had a gentleman from Augusta, actually he came last week for a fitting, and we haven't got his irons to him yet, but while he was here, I sprinkled my pixie dust on his putter. And he called me this morning and said, I don't know what you did, but man, I putt like crazy. Friday, he went out and played 18 holes, and I've never heard of this, but he had 21 putts in 18 holes.
Oh, my gosh.
I had a young lady back in the wintertime that I gave a lesson to and also adjusted her putter, and she called me the following week and said, the lessons are good. I'm working on my swing and everything, but the putting is phenomenal. My husband and I went out and played 9 holes last night, and I had 9 putts.
Well,
2 weeks ago, I had a gentleman who is, shall remain nameless.
Yeah.
But he works on putting with tour pros, well-known tour pros.
Yeah.
And I did to his putter what I do to everybody else's. And he called me a few days later and just was very gracious with his praise. And that it's just amazing how much better I putt. And we got to get together and do something with some tour pros on that.
Well, that's an exciting opportunity. How many tour pros have you had? This wasn't one of the questions that have come and seen. I assume once in a while somebody sort of sneaks in there, wouldn't you think? Or
nobody of any renown. Yeah, I get a lot of mini tour players. Since the tour doesn't come to my area, I don't see a lot of them. But I've had some wonderful experiences with up-and-comers playing on mini tours. I remember several years ago during one of the local tour events, a guy came in on Tuesday afternoon, and I worked on his putter. And on Wednesday afternoon, another guy came in with him and said, whatever you did for him, do for me, because he's never putted like that in his life.
Yeah.
And by Saturday night, I had 12 mini tour players just laying on different patches of carpet in the door here, taking naps, waiting their turn. And I think we finally got all of them done and out of here about 1:30 in the morning.
So they had a hard time because they're all putting so great. What's going to differentiate them, right? So that's interesting. Well, what's before we get to the end, what's the one other story that you always like to tell people about related to an experience, a success story in terms of club fitting?
Wow, there's so many of them.
Yeah.
I guess my favorite is my Jamaica story.
I was hoping you were going to say that one, Dan, because I love that one. But go ahead. I didn't prompt you.
Okay. I'm going to go into accent here, so bear with me. So it's probably been close to 9 or 10 years ago now. I get a call one day, and this guy says, hello, my name is Lincoln Williams, and I'm calling you from Jamaica. I'm the number 3 golfer in Jamaica, and I want to be the number 1. I'm told I should come see you. So he came, and we spent half a day together, and I made him some clubs and shipped them to him. And over the following months, he called 3 or 4 times wanting some advice, and I would tell him to, well, have Fred flatten that a degree or cut the driver off a half an inch and stick a new grip on it with 2 pieces of tape. And eventually he quit calling.
Yeah.
And a few months after that, I get a call from a guy, and he says, "Hello, my name is Robert, and I'm calling you from Jamaica. I'm the number 2 golfer in Jamaica, and I want to be the number 1. And I said, "Really? Who's number 1? He says, "Well, I used to be. I think you know who is now." And after that, they just started coming. And over a period of about 2 years, I literally had 16 people fly in from Jamaica and do the fitting and go home. They get an early flight from Jamaica to Miami, connect into Atlanta, get a rental car, come down here, do the fitting, and just reverse the track that night.
My goodness. And
all of them played better. All of them played well. My second guy, Robert, he had 4 hole-in-ones and 3 par 4 eagles in 6 months, all with a different club.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, he was happy.
Sure.
Well, yeah. Well, Dana, one of the things I'm going to put in the show notes, by the way, as I was preparing, you did that AGCP video on what to expect in a club fitting, and I'm going to put that in there. I think that's good for people to see. But if you wouldn't mind, in closing, talk about some of those things you really think golfers should be aware of in terms of the importance of custom club fitting.
Well, the first thing that you should be aware of is not all fitting systems and not all fitters are on the same plane. Okay, I think Tony, that 2 years ago, I guess, we had a discussion on the forum about how long does it really take to learn this. And the general consensus was 8 to 10 years of full-time experience.
Yeah.
And, of course, I'm well into that. But I also felt like I still learn every day. From a standpoint of somebody going to see a fitter, listen to them, but if you don't see the improvement that they're promising, or if they think they can fit a faulty swing, then shake their hands, tell them thank you, and go somewhere else. There are definite things that you can improve with a fitting, and some things that you can't. Some of it has to be some swing also.
Yes.
The gentleman I had this afternoon was a good swing, except he made a big over-the-top move, and he hit that proverbial, as I've referred to already, the flop shot 6-iron. I mean, he readily admits that he hits his 6-iron 140 yards. And I said, well, I think you're capable of doing more than that. Let's have you hit them and see what happens. And sure enough, with his speed, he was capable of hitting it more around 175, 180. But when you're over the top 14 degrees, and you're open face 16 degrees,
that much?
10 degrees.
That much? Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. A 10-degree shaft backward lean at impact. There's just no speed on the ball. It says 6 on the bottom, but it's a lob wedge and you hit it.
Yeah.
So spend a little time with him, showed him the swing on the video, and the lights clicked real quick, and he made some good changes real quick there.
Oh, it's got to be exciting for him. Well, Dana, yeah. As you said, it's taken us a little bit of time. I know you had some fun sinus activities the first couple months of the year, but I know that the people who got to listen to this will really, really have a treat from it, and I appreciate that. And one of the things that's kind of interesting is you're not going to find a website for Dana Golf, or at least I sure can't find it anymore. But I'll put your contact email if somebody wants to come and see you. And like I said, I will put that video in the show notes. But I appreciate it, Tony.
I've never had a website. A lot of people wonder, how do you not have a website? Well, I never developed it because I'm a service guy instead of a product guy. And, goodness gracious, for the services that I provide, I don't know that there'd be enough space on a page to put it all. So I've always just relied on word of mouth, and those people who want to come see me and want to experience what I do and walk away with a superb set of golf clubs, they'll find me.
Yep, and I know they're continuing to do that. You're very busy, so thank you very much again for doing this today, Dana. I appreciate it.
Tony, thank you. I'd love to do it again and follow up with you at a later date.
Okay.
Taking your game to new heights. www.gameimprovementgolf.com.
Well, Dana, thanks again for that interview. I know that golfers and also some of my custom club fitting friends heard some things there that they might not have heard before. And I appreciate you sharing some of your knowledge about custom club fitting and how it can help golfers play their best. You mentioned that you might come back and do another interview with me, and I'm going to take you up on that at some point. One of the really interesting things I get from doing this is usually I put a website in the show notes for somebody that I talk to. Well, Dana doesn't have a website. Dana simply does not need it. His business is pretty much word of mouth, and he is loaded with business. But I did put his email address and his phone number in the show notes, and I also put a little video he did. I lose track of time sometime, but I know it was at least a year ago. It might be longer than that, on what to expect in a custom club fitting. And I think you'll enjoy watching that video if you haven't seen it before. So Dana, again, thank you very much for your time and your information and knowledge. Well, that's it for today. In 2 weeks, we will switch gears a little and talk with Dr. Joan Vickers from Calgary University. Some of you have heard the term quiet eye in terms of improving your process for your putting. Well, this came from Dr. Vickers, and I look forward to learning more from her, and I know you will too, on the quiet eye and how to help golfers to use it. See you in 2 weeks.
Game Improvement Golf, your source of information and inspiration to become an exceptional golfer now. www.gameimprovementgolf.com